Okay, Ryan, so that looks like the recording started. Are you okay to introduce yourself now, yeah?
Yeah. Oh, I got, one of our drawbacks of our location is we're right next to a fighter jet base. So they just flew over. I had a hard time understanding you right there.
No problem. The recording started, so if you want to introduce yourself.
Hit the shift button.
No, if you want to introduce yourself, so just let people know who you are.
Okay. Yep. My name is Ryan Nielsen. I'm with Patriot Hemp Services. I'm the CEO, and I guess some would say the visionary of what the company is and what we're trying to accomplish, and trying to push goals across the creating the supply chain provider for hemp farmers in our industry, and kind of get past that stigma of operators without integrity. I guess that's kind of one of our biggest things, and one of my biggest pushes is try to bring some integrity to what this market is and what some of the players are that are in it.
Yeah, I think that's important for any business as well, having that kind of integrity there, because like I'm sure you would know as well, there's so many businesses that don't have like a backbone of integrity or anything that's kind of substantial to keep you going and growing.
Yeah, and 100%. I mean, you, for better or worse, I mean, I don't think anybody can discount where the hemp industry was born out of and where its roots came from, and recreational cannabis and different things. But what comes along with that is vendors and certain mentalities that end up preying on the broader population that's trying to get into this industry. And what that does is detrimental across the board. I mean, everybody hears of like the hemp tax or the cannabis tax, where you have vendors that are dealing with farmers that all of a sudden the same fertilizer, for example, is a set price going into normal agricultural industries. And as soon as you hear hemp or cannabis, they're putting a large multiplier on that, and that doesn't do the industry, in my opinion, any good, and it doesn't compound a sustainable industry, because if farmers aren't around and everybody makes a killing off of 1 year, they're not going to be there the next year. And for the hemp industry to continue to grow and become kind of a powerhouse in the economy and for worldwide industrial uses, we have to be able to take and marry, for example, like large scale agriculture and some of the practices that are with that, and bring a kind of a standard back to the game. And again, you see and you hear horror stories across probably the United States and other places where vendors and have preyed upon farmers that were jumping into this as kind of a cash crop. I guess that's kind of, I've seen it, I've experienced it, and we've kind of molded our company around trying to exterminate that. And we want we want to under promise and over deliver. And as the years pass by here, I think industry participants are going to realize that the people that do have that integrity and do have that mentality will come out ahead, and they're going to band together, and you're going to see the strengthening of the industry across the board.
Yeah, especially with kind of hemp, it's such a versatile kind of product. It can be used for anything pretty much.
I apologize, that jet I think is doing some touch and goes, and
that's right.
Drowned you out a little bit. We've got our name's Patriot Hemp Services, and we have the benefit of being right next to an amazing base here, but sometimes it's a little hard on us when we can't hear each other too, but it's pretty amazing. So go ahead and repeat that.
It does sound like it would be a really kind of cool place to be, and I've totally lost the track of my thoughts. So, what got you?
I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. What got you into doing kind of the hemp kind of growing and farming and stuff like that?
What was that?
What got you into the industry that you're in just now?
Well, my background is in agriculture in California. My family came from Denmark into California in the 1860s, and we've been in kind of agriculture and different things ever since. I also had my family's very open to trying new things and becoming diversified on our income portfolio, and I kind of cut my teeth on recreational cannabis and Prop 215, and kind of had the blessing of my family to kind of start down that path. And the natural transition for us, staying on the up and up of going through on the Prop 215 is going through getting all the licenses and doing everything correctly, and hitting the hurdles that came along with recreational cannabis, like for us, banking and different things, really is a hindrance on somebody that is trying to be successful in business. I mean, and there's a tremendous amount of recreational cannabis companies that are doing it. But when hemp decided, when we had the farm bill come through, and looking at what it was and looking at what Oregon was doing with it, we've got farm ground kind of scattered throughout Western United States. Uh, Looked at it and kind of said, hey, here's something that we think we can get smart on, understand how to grow it in an agricultural scale, and move forward into the fact that you have the opportunity to have a bank account, which is just it's so huge compared to sitting around with cash. Uh, you can work with lenders, and you can do a lot of different things, and so we kind of formulated a group of like-minded agriculturalists and farmers and ranchers that we had worked with, and I pitched the idea of Patriot Hemp Services, and being able to kind of create, in essence, a vertical operation for processing, and going from that seed to all the way from genetics all the way through helping people farm and get it all the way to where it's dried and processed, and to be able to facilitate something in those realms, and take and marry the agricultural knowledge we have with everything else, and the cannabis knowledge, and kind of create a model that we think can be successful in multiple places in the country. Um, you know, so I guess the roots are always kind of back in the recreational cannabis to answer the question. Um, but hemp was just the graduating from the recreational due to business decisions, and in essence, the banking and financial capabilities of operating under the hemp industry rather than the recreational cannabis industry.
Yes, yes. I think hemp is such like a huge market for people to start getting into just now as well. So, for instance, here in Scotland, hemp has been legal, but it's never been illegal, and everybody's always kind of used it, but it's frowned upon. So it's a weird kind of middle area between what you can do and can't do with it. But if you want to make T-shirts, if you want to make paper, anything like that, nobody really says anything. But it's just how you sell it. If you sell it as it has to be like labelled differently and things like that as well. But looking back at the history of hemp, it's the how much it can be used for is limitless, pretty much.
I 100% agree with you. And I think that the American hemp industry, primarily here in these first years, are concentrating obviously on CBD content and other cannabinoids. But I think that medical slash recreational type of use for these products is going to be minuscule compared to when the industrial aspect, those building blocks get put in place. Um, you know, that doesn't probably bode very well for my business model, but I think that and you have to be able to adapt. And as a company, we're going to position ourselves to be able to adapt and see which way these things go. But I 100% agree with you. The usability of hemp and cannabis in the industrial marketplace and industrial products in the United States and probably in essence globally uh, hasn't really been tapped back into. I mean, I read a lot of different articles and what they're doing with bioplastics and getting into, in essence, hemp laminate boards and different things like that. That could change the way we build stuff worldwide. And I think there's a lot of momentum there. And I think as, we're just coming off of, over a little over a year of really being able to, the farm bill, so to speak. And when you get more time and more research and universities can start doing different things with it, you're going to see a lot of potential of this thing unlock. As long as we can keep managing, there's an old saying, and is, you show a farmer a good market and they'll show you overproduction and oversupply really quick. And so that still needs to play out. But I think that the industries are still emerging and it's going to be volatile for a while, but we are going to, at some point, really capture the potential of what this crop can do.
Yeah, even looking back in history, back in the early 1900s, late 1800s, most paper was made from hemp. They were building houses. Some of the first cars were using hemp oil to be able to drive and things like that as well. Just the future's kind of limitless from it, and I think even recreational or medical as such is probably going to be about 5% of what it can be used for. 95% is going to be for the industrial side that you were saying there.
I agree with your statement 100%. It is. In essence, it's kind of limitless, and sometimes we have to. Humans in general haven't always made the best decisions throughout time, but going back and learning from some of the things that have happened in the past is what we can continue to do. And like you said, in the 100 years ago, there's a lot of things being made from hemp, and maybe industrialists, or whether or not it's all true, where different chemical companies and plastics and polymers and newspaper barons pushed kind of the world in a different direction. But that doesn't mean that we're not able to learn from what's happened in the past and become more efficient and more sustainable as we move forward. And again, I think that technology is going to start being developed, and you're going to see some tremendous innovations in using hemp in industries and medical across the board here in the next few years.
It's great kind of seeing how America's becoming more open towards the cannabis industry, hemp industry and stuff like that as well. Obviously, Scotland being in Europe, we have like really grey areas for rules. So things are, in certain places can be legal, in other places they don't really mind. Then if you go an hour down the road, they might be against the law. So it's a weird area to live in Europe because it's such a close continent.
Yeah, I mean, the United States is kind of similar in that aspect. I mean, you could do a map of the United States right now, and there's still some areas that have some prohibition. And, even to this today, I mean, in states that you think that it's pretty open, that you have kind of the stigma that's involved with where they think it's cannabis and not necessarily hemp. We were talking with a potential vendor on some of our retail products, and they decided eventually, even though we communicated with them that this is hemp and it's not recreational cannabis, it still has that stigma tied to it. So there are a lot of mentalities that I think will eventually change. But you run across it in pockets across the United States too. I know, for example, Idaho, the state of Idaho isn't, they're looking at allowing hemp cultivation, but they're one of the ones on kind of the Northwest that are still against it. I mean, even though we have a federal law that allows it, uh, I believe it was last year that Idaho had pulled over a truck that was transporting hemp to Colorado and seized the cargo and arrested the driver. And um, those kind of things are probably going to be more far and few between. But until everything kind of opens up, there still are these pockets of resistance, so to speak. And I think that's disappointing for the fact that I don't think hemp is the answer for all of rural America's economic development, but I sure believe that the potential for profit margins and rotations could be extremely beneficial to rural America and farmers that are deciding to participate in hemp. Obviously, you have a lot of people that there's a lot of people out there, like we're talking about integrity wise, that are pushing, so to speak, Kool-Aid and promoting things that you can make. I've heard people say that you're going to make $50,000 or $60,000 an acre off of hemp, and that's not necessarily true. It takes there was a few years ago that definitely kind of was possible on the very beginning of this thing, but being realistic and understanding, but this isn't a golden ticket by any means, but it definitely has some profit margins in it that you don't necessarily see in corn or soybeans, and it can be a useful crop in a farmer's tool belt to be able to utilize and in a rotation to create some different types of cash income.
Yeah, I totally agree. Having it like that you're saying within a rotation, it's going to help that farmer be able to get through leaner times or times when things might get a little bit more difficult because it's such a versatile product. Like you were saying, obviously people still have that stigma against it, but I think in probably the next 5 to 10 years, you're not even going to have a stigma against it at all.
Yeah, I think people are afraid of what they don't understand in most cases, right? I mean, that fear, which leads to the stigma. Um, you know, I think, and I'm not 100% sure, but I've heard about the demographics that use CBD and different things like that. There's a lot of we have people that contact us that are older individuals looking for ways to try to, you know, healthy, non-pharmaceutical drug type ways to see if they can better themselves and for their health and wellness. And as that truly kind of comes online and people see those benefits, and I think that if you went, I think it'd be very rare for you to go into the United States and be dropped off somewhere and start asking people, uh, do you know any? I mean, if you don't use CBD products or hemp type products yourself, do you know anybody that uses hemp products? And I think the answer is going to, more every day, they're going to say, yes, I know somebody they said it was extremely beneficial. And as that wave continues, that stigma and that fear of the product will ultimately go away. And, there's obviously, if you conspiracy theorists and different things about, control and different things like that, as soon as the FDA and DEA kind of figure out how they're truly going to take and regulate CBD and give us a path, I think that there's going to be a lot more openings in the future of how this industry can grow.
Yeah, definitely, especially with any kind of conspiracy theory or like past kind of propaganda towards anything, it always kind of sticks with people. And until they kind of come over or re-educate people on what it can actually be used for, it's still going to be there. But like I saying, if any government body comes out, they kind of give a straight path of how they're going to be using it, what it's going to be for, the benefits that it can give for industry, medical, recreation, and countless number of things. It's going to give people more peace of mind to understand that they can trust it again, instead of from still falling back into that 100 years plus of propaganda that's been kind of put out there already.
Correct. I mean, and it keeps on going back to that fear of, that kind of the snake oil salesman.
Mm-hmm.
And, you go back and you actually look in time, cannabis type tinctures have been used for quite some time, until prohibition really kind of came into play. But I think one of the biggest benefits is that it now being federally legal is that a lot of our universities and colleges can really start getting some studies out there. And that's where the United States, I think, is really fallen behind on the true medical research. I mean, I think, again, we can find anybody and kind of talk around, and most people know somebody that can say that, hey, this helped me. And that's great, but until we have true controlled studies and understanding it, uh, there's still a lot of people that trust science, which they should, to kind of figure these kind of things out for them and tell them what is safe and what isn't safe. Um, the benefit I think that cannabis and hemp truly have is that they're organic compounds, and they seem to work really well with our endocannabinoid system that our bodies already have. And again, that research is only going to multiply and become more available for people to kind of figure out and make decisions on their own. And again, I think the FDA and the DEA in this country are really going to figure this out and understand, first off, that it's here. It's probably fruitless to try to keep fighting it, but to try to figure out a way to make sure that it's safe and available to get into consumers and consumers' hands.
Yeah, definitely. Especially, like you were saying there, one of the things when I was growing up, I used to be a professional wrestler, but I broke my neck to quite a young age. I was getting out the ring and I tripped and I fell. But I don't really like prescription medication. So I went to the doctors and he says, here's some research, go have a look at it, see what you think. And it was about using CBD oils, hemp creams, cannabis to treat it over a long period of time. So it was probably for over about a year and a half. Because of a really bad break, so I got it treated along with doing physical therapy, obviously. I took cannabis, used hemp oils and stuff like that. My neck has never been better. It's I don't get pain, and I still continuously use that same process to this day. But obviously, that's me saying that. I'm not a qualified scientist. uh, they would need a scientist to kind of do a study in it a little bit more than what I say. But anybody who goes through any ailments or anything, I always tell them to do some research, find out if it's the best for you, and speak to your doctors. Here in Scotland, you can ask your doctor about it, and they'll tell you what they think. Truthfully, if it's going to be good for you, if it's not, depending what prescription medication you're on, and they'll help you that way.
Yeah, and I think that's an important and a very valuable statement. 100% that, I think you're still going to find uh, doctors that probably don't believe in it, but I think that there's so many people out there that have gone through situations similar to your own, that doctors have seen improvement. And again, that science is going to catch up at some point. And I think, as you said, everybody's body, you kind of alluded to that, everybody's body's different as well. I mean, the efficiency of CBD compared to what I might need or you might need is definitely going to be different than other people's needs and how it affects them. And as science kind of really builds that back up and understanding what each individual takes, I mean, that's going to get there. I mean, it's the same thing. I mean, for example, aspirin tolerance and different things. Some people need more Tylenol than other people, or maybe Tylenol is not effective for other people. it's the same thing and same concept as you see with cannabis. I mean, and you see people build tolerance to it as well. I mean, I think there's people, especially just going back and looking at the recreational side, there's people that can take 10 milligrams and of THC and it doesn't affect them. Then there's people that can take 5 milligrams of THC and it affects them. So until we really understand those dynamics and individuals of how those cannabinoids work within the body and how they can affect people. And, there's a lot of science coming out about how terpenes coupled with everything affect each individual too. There's so many interesting and amazing things happening. Again, and I'm not a scientist, and I just think that as the industry develops across the board, there's going to be a lot of things that are going to come out and help the consumers and help the regulatory agencies to be able to fine tune what is safe for everyone.
Yeah, definitely. Especially at this point just now, we are still kind of really the world's just kind of opening their mind to it. We're still in the very beginning stages, so people don't know what the next 10 years or 20, 30, 40 years are going to look like. So it's still like a learning process for everybody, even those regulatory agencies, people that are using it medically more. It's still like a really new experience for kind of moving away from that pharmaceutical side to a more organic method to try to start treating things, to start doing industrial business via organic things instead of from using that pharmaceutical or the cold industry that people always think of when they think of like industrial pharmaceuticals and businesses like that.
Yes, synthetic type
Yeah,
products. Um, and I'm not going to discount. I think that there's people want organic type products that they can derive from plants and different things as well. But I think everything has a place. I think synthetic drugs have a place. I mean, just looking at what the world is going through right now. But with that being said, you've seen or the United States has seen a large push in hemp and cannabis type products being sold at the retail level, and people are exploring that kind of health and organic type wellness through these kind of trying times. So, I mean, that's one thing that if you look at the silver lining of everything, maybe some of the organic health wellness practices there'll be more interest in them during our stress in the world today.
and obviously we're talking about what's going on just now. Is it affecting you guys anyway?
We're running on lean staff right now, but it's definitely not affecting the plans that we have to be able to facilitate. We've got a great staff. We've got an amazing facility here in Southern Oregon. We've got 60,000 square feet, so we do a pretty good job of staying away from each other. And I guess the beauty of it is too, we're kind of considered essential as we're trying to create these health and wellness products. But I mean, yes and no. It's slowed down some of like the delivery of things that we need to kind of keep pushing forward and bringing our retail products to launch. But other than that, our team is pretty dedicated and conscientious of maintaining our distance, but also accomplishing what we need to get done. I think that it has the one main thing that it has affected us in is I think that people on the farming side are a little bit scared. That's probably contributed to just the general economy as it's situated to what we're going through. In addition to what the market looked like and kind of the oversupply and people drinking the Kool-Aid from last year, I'm not exactly sure you're going to have inexperienced states in the United States that have grown this before. I think you're probably going to see there could be very well be a retraction in growers from last year that weren't successful, that didn't have plans, that didn't pay attention to their input costs, because they thought there was a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, so to speak. And some of those people probably aren't going to make it back. So there's probably going to be some type of retraction, but there's going to be, again, that retraction probably being in states that have gone through this, but there's a lot of new states coming online that I think there's a lot of people and vendors out there maybe, pouring Kool-Aid to people. And hopefully they kind of do their research and they can get involved with people that have integrity, that can give them realistic numbers and of where they should expect to see a profit margin, and how to lower input costs and kind of create a sustainable crop for themselves. There were so many people last year, and I love using the word drink the Kool-Aid, so I apologize about
Oh, that's
that.
fine.
But there's a lot of people that got into this that didn't pay attention to their input costs, and maybe it was inexperience with farming in general, but farming has a lot to do with your input costs and managing how you're going to get your crop off the ground and having plans. And there were so many people out there, again, that just didn't understand and got involved with people that just really kind of deceived them. And I think, again, that's going to change. I mean, we work with, you start narrowing down as your network expands and you're in business and you do different things where you understand the people that you're going to avoid and not work with, and you build on the building blocks of people that you can trust and do what they say. And that's kind of what we've done is create a network beyond the services that we can provide, working with people that show up when they say they're going to show up, under promise, over deliver, and don't take advantage of the fact that you're in hemp or you're in cannabis and different things, and increase those prices beyond what they should be. Ours is a long-term goal. We want as many farmers to be successful to keep being here year after year to facilitate using our services. We're not here to kind of do a 1 year type situation. And again, we have a great team of people that we work with, collaboration wise, across the board. I mean, a lot of it has to do with large scale agriculture, working with people that, I'm just going to throw this out as an example, what people were paying for seedlings last year, from $3 to $5, right? And you get people that got seeds that weren't feminized, didn't germinate, just a horrendous amount. If things that could go wrong went wrong. And with our kind of agricultural background, we were able to work with people that grow seedlings for the vegetable industry, all in Arizona and California, and transplant and do stuff everywhere. Well, they have an economy at scale that most people can't bring, and they're not out here. There's obviously some differences in hemp, but with their botanists and everybody that they have on staff, they can successfully take your seed, sow it, germinate it, harden it off, and transplant it cheaper than, for depending on the cell size. Last year I paid between $1.20 and $1.50 depending on the cell, and it was kind of an experiment to see what was going to be the most successful. Where people, like I said, were paying $3 to $5, and being able to bring that experience from the agricultural world and marry it back in with all this stuff is one of the values, and the people that we can trust to do a good job. It's extremely efficient for us and the people that we work with.
Yeah,
and they're
definitely.
not taking advantage of each other.
Yeah, I definitely think with all businesses, even my kind of background is advertising and marketing, the dreaded people that every business owner kind of doesn't like. So we're like marketing, advertising. That's what my background and my businesses that I've got just now are. And you see, last year, 2018, 2019, you seen so many people set up a business just because they watched an Instagram video or a YouTube on how to set up social media marketing to make some quick money. But in the long term, that doesn't last. Like so, for me, one of my businesses is almost 10 years old, and it's a long term goal. But we haven't even started yet. We're just getting into our main goals just now, and it's just when people get into different kind of like getting into hemp, getting into growing crops, and not get having that kind of expertise or having that background behind them. They just kind of they're there to make money quickly, and then it fails or falls in their face, and they're stuck with debt. They start feeling kind of, or they don't know what to do. They don't know where to go. And everybody that I ever speak to, I always tell them to have really long-term goals and help everybody around you. Most people don't listen to me, but the ones that do always become successful. So I'm glad to hear that you're talking about long-term goals. You're the first person that I've spoken to in a while that's been saying about long-term goals.
Yeah, I mean, and I think you kind of touched on something that has really been detrimental to the hemp industry, especially this year. When you turn around and kind of see it, again, this is just my personal opinion, and it might not be worth the ground I'm standing on right now, but when you look at the hemp industry and farming in general, compare it to, for example, the real estate market in the United States, and you kind of look for comparables when you're selling something to kind of see what the market is. Well, you don't use, say, a foreclosure or a distressed sale in the real estate market to set your price on what you're going to sell your real estate for. Unfortunately, in agriculture, in this last year in the hemp industry, as I mentioned before, when people didn't pay attention to their input costs and thought there was going to be this just huge pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, you have a situation where people did go into debt. They leveraged themselves past and beyond what they probably should have. And all of a sudden, if you have an ag loan and you've got to make that payment this year, it comes back around, and all of a sudden your farm payment is due, and all you've got is a bunch of biomass, so to speak, sitting in your barn or sitting in a shop somewhere, and you were expecting to get $2 a point for it, and you've got to make a payment, and somebody's offering you, and there were people out there offering, preying on people like this, and getting it down. I'll give you 60 cents a point, 50 cents a point, and when you've got an option between coming up with 80% of your payment for your farm or not having it at all and being in debt, there's a lot of sales, I believe, that happened like that, and that definitely depressed the market substantially. I mean, on top of that, there were numerous crops here in Southern Oregon that didn't even get harvested. You could drive around and see them. But unfortunately, you know, what happened in 2019 is a lot of people got past what they should have in their comfort level and leveraged themselves, and it kind of downplayed on the whole market, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. I think like it happens across all markets when the people see like a new kind of golden nugget, they try to get onto it, try to make money with it. It was the same thing when social media started to pick up more, and people were trying to become marketers or influencers or any kind of thing. If you just look at Instagram, you'd be able to see. It's just the same thing with hemp and cannabis. Like you said in 2019, it's a kind of it will affect the market because too many people are like they're not doing they're not getting their crops kind of harvest, they're falling into debt. There's people out there doing kind of bad sale practices to get things a lot cheaper than what they need to be. It will take as a learning experience for, I think, every business, especially in the social media generation when everything is so instant gratification,
Yes.
especially
I
with farming.
agree with that.
It's a long period of time.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I've never really analyzed it by even looking or comparing it with the social media aspect and those two different types of markets. But I think you're definitely it's a great analogy to kind of look at and compare with.
I always try it because it is like my bread and butter, what I do every day. It's like marketing, advertising. Social media is the biggest point for that just now. And we evaluate how people react on everything. And it's that instant gratification which is causing businesses to struggle. Given the current circumstance with the virus just now in Glasgow, we work with quite a lot of restaurants and they're struggling to get deliveries sent out because there's not enough people to deliver the food. And people are complaining that it's taking maybe 2 hours for their food to get to them. And it's
Wow.
that just they want to order the food and get it there, but we have to then my PR agency goes in and does the usual. It is a kind of a privilege to get food delivered to you. It's only 2 hours. It's not a long period of time.
Society has definitely changed drastically as technologies come on board, and I guess you could probably say, I guess it's up in the air of if it's for the better or not. But instant gratification is something that worldwide, I think, has become a norm. You expect in today's society, you expect that you pick up a phone and you call somebody that they should have it on them and they need to answer so you can get your instant gratification of speaking with that person. And um, I think it could be argued that that's very detrimental.
I would say it definitely is detrimental because I hate when I'm sitting trying to enjoy my time with my kids at the weekend or I'm out the office and somebody gives me a call and then they'll message me, why haven't you answered? But because I'm in the house watching a movie. I'm not going to pick up my phone when I'm out the office. You know my business hours,
Right, right.
unless it's extremely important, obviously. But sometimes you get people just calling you to be like, "How is the ad running from Wednesday? It's only been running from Wednesday." I'm sure you guys probably get kind of either something similar, or you can relate that same experience from people that you would work with. Could be again, it comes down to that instant gratification in the world that we have just now. Is one of the analogies we use is you can't plant a tree and expect it to be a tree tomorrow.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we try to do the best we can. I mean, uh, we our staff and everything, and like you said, phone, you're kind of attached to them all the time. But our employees need to have a quality. We try to respond to everybody in a timely manner, but we do have people through like Instagram messaging or emails that might send something at 9 o'clock on a Saturday night, and then you get an email again on Sunday morning, and they want an answer, they want to figure out how we can help them and those kinds of services. And I think some of that is disappointing, but a lot of people are under stress too. And we try to answer everything and help people as much as we possibly can, but sometimes it's not possible, and that's also something that people don't want to hear. We work really hard to improve our customers and farmers experiences in this industry. But if sometimes the mistakes that were made before we get involved necessarily can't be, they can't come back from. Um, you know, integrated pest management and making sure you're preventative rather than reactive and different things like that. You know, Mother Nature has a way of kicking farmers in the shins more often than not. So, um, we can't fix everything, but we sure as heck try.
Yeah, again, it comes down to that just everybody wanting like the answer straight away. It does kind of get tedious at some points, but like you were saying, it's always best to kind of get the person the right answer, make sure everybody's getting help as much as they can. And again, it does come down to that again, that instant gratification again, when people just want, they don't like being told no. So if you can't do something for them, you tell them no, you get upset with it. It's the same kind of, it all builds on the same kind of thing. And I think it's one of the things, a problem that maybe the hemp industry's got in the future. So maybe being able to be used for certain things but not others. So maybe paper, t-shirts, certain industrial areas, and then it's not going to be able to be legalised for others. Telling those industries no might cause that issue in the future, which I think again it just goes down to the same. People just want it to be a straight line to success or a straight line to get the right answer that they want, that they feel is going to be beneficial to them. I know everybody wants to get the right answer, but I think that's a problem that having your phone on you all the time, having access to Google, which is pretty much an encyclopedia all the time, causes as well.
Yeah, and I guess too is, especially when it comes to farming, uh, there's a lot of times there's more than one right answer. There's always more than one way to do something,
Mm-hmm.
and people need to understand that as well. I mean, uh, I absolutely hate the word master grower. Um, and you see a lot of people online touting themselves as master growers, and nobody within our organization will tout themselves as a master grower, um, because, in my opinion, there is no such thing as a fact that anybody that has vast experience growing hemp or cannabis and cutting their teeth and obviously the rec world, uh, you're always learning. You're always trying to improve. You can't, when you go from a recreational type grow and move into hemp and you're looking at larger scale type production in the rec world, we concentrated on individuals, the individual plants and taking care of everything and different stuff. When you get into an agricultural type production, we're concentrating on the population rather than the individual. And we haven't had enough years under uh, agricultural large scale hemp production for anybody to truly consider themselves a master grower. And again, I just don't think that term really is useful. But the data of soil analysis and nutrients and different things, we've really only got professionals from those types of microbiologists, and we only have so many years of data over for something that could be a long-term crop in different regions. We don't have that data. We kind of know hypothetically looking at for example, Canada and different things. You can get some good information out of there. But it's something, again, that we have to adapt as individuals participating in this industry to try to create that long-term success. But I apologize. I probably just rambled on about something. But um, again, there's a differentiation in uh, what people think they know and what they can continue to learn.
No, you didn't ramble on at all. It's great when somebody's passionate about something, you get to have that kind of conversation. A lot of times you, like you were saying there, what people know and then what people have got to learn. A lot of people like to think they know everything before they've actually learned it. Just like in, I'm sure, farming, marketing, football, wrestling, whatever it is, you can know everything, but until you've actually applied it and learnt the the small steps to that knowledge. You don't really know anything until you've got that real world skill. So a lot of people will be like, yeah, I know the answer to this, but until they've got real world skill, they won't really know what's happening, if that makes sense.
No, yeah, we're on the same page, and like you said, it doesn't just apply to hemp farming, but you know, marketing and everything else. And part of this industry, in all honesty, is made up of uh, all of those topics that you just mentioned, and that's what it's going to take to be successful. I mean, um, we don't have the luxury, really, truly, of being able to have more production than we really need and storing it in silos like corn and trying to play the market, right? I mean, we haven't gotten to that level yet. So, you really have to have a marketing plan, distribution and processing and all those kind of things. And that's going to evolve in this industry. And hopefully, companies like us and some other companies have models that are similar, um, that can help facilitate that growth in the industry. I mean, I can tell you right now that as we came to building this facility out and doing different things, we've learned a lot, and we've made mistakes, and we're going to improve on those mistakes. But we've also designed this whole company and this our current facility here in Southern Oregon as a model to be able to expand and go other places with. Um, and the lessons that we learned from our initial startup are things that we're going to bring with us and continue to expand on for the entire industry. And I think that that's a key to the industry being successful in the broad picture.
Definitely, what you're saying there is what I teach people. So I teach people how to, like, the kind of startup phase of your business. I teach some people how to do that if they're at uni or if they're kind of just really getting into business for the first time, and it's learning from those mistakes. So many people want to get everything correct the first time out the gate. Just they want to tick all the boxes, follow their business plan exactly, and they want to be just doing everything correct every single day, which even in life it never happens. So people need, like, I teach people just to have long-term goals, learn from your mistakes, realize that there's going to be days that it's going to be pretty hard. You just need to take those hard times, the mistakes, and apply them to the long-term goal, so you can pivot and change. Especially at this point just now, with everything pretty much being shut down in Europe, it's just a pivoting of how you're going to change your business to move forward, because it could be like this for another 3 months or 4 months, which nobody knows yet.
Yeah, I mean, again, that highlights, um, when we started our company here, you can, like you said, you can have the best business plan and the best strategic vision and direction that you want to go, but you hit it right on the nail head. You have to be able to adapt. You have to be able to pivot and quickly. If you don't build that latitude into your decision making processes, as a company, I think it's going to be very difficult, especially in an emerging industry that we are in. And we've really tried to not be 100% set and what everything that we do. We have a direction, but how we get to our end goal could change as the variables of the industry change. And I don't think that's a concept that doesn't apply specifically just to hemp, but anybody that's looking at, as you kind of highlighted, anybody that's looking at starting their own business and being able to take the metrics that are in the market and what are surrounding them, uh, and being able to adapt and change is going to be crucial.
Definitely. And when we first started, was it 60,000 acres you said that you're?
We our facility here, we grew 220. Well, we had some acres in our that were too wet that we didn't get planted. So it's probably around 212 or 13 acres of our own material that we farmed. Plus, we helped quite a few other people with their farming operations as well. And so I would say we probably had a little over 1,000 acres come through our facility last year.
Just because when I was googling it, that's pretty much the size of the city centre of Glasgow where I live. So it shows you how small Scotland is.
Yeah.
Uh, I was just googling it to find because acres we're in miles, but there's kilometres. So I was just googling it to figure out what acres would be the difference of it. But yeah, it's about the same size as the centre of Glasgow, which is the largest city in Scotland. So it makes us feel really small compared to where you are.
Well, yeah, United States is extremely vast in many regards, but I
Yeah, I've
wouldn't
been
downplay Scotland. It's one of the countries that is on my list to visit.
yeah I've been travelling in America quite a lot since a young age. It's just love the country. I love everything about it. And when I go to America, they always say I would love to come to Scotland to travel and kind of see the sights. First thing I say is why. Because I see it every day. I don't realise why you would want to come and see it. Apart from like the Highlands, which is cool with like hills and stuff, the castles, but there's nothing that really gets me about when I go to America. It's so vast. There's so much you can do in it, which is better than well for us if we went the same distance from New York to LA, we would be in Russia. So it's we've got so much in a short place than what America has. I just enjoy how big it is, which is really good.
Yeah, my I actually have some heritage in Scotland and back to, and I'm gonna probably butcher the name, but Delzell, it's supposedly a castle or something back there somewhere.
Yeah,
But
there's loads. There's every family that's old Scottish kind of clans. There's probably about 30 to 40 castles that belong to each clan. Then clans split, and there's castles everywhere pretty much.
yeah,
We've got that many castles. We need to knock down castles to build other houses, which for a long period of time in like the early 1900s to the 20th century, right up till about 1990, there was a problem because the land was still kind of classed as being owned by royalty or a lordship within Scotland and the UK. So it was an issue. So we had to kind of put into law that they can knock down some castles that aren't as important as other ones.
yeah, that's pretty amazing. I mean, the history of each one of those compounds would be uh, something that would be worthy of reading about. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's just I always think it's fun because like in America, I've been doing quite a lot of podcasts with people from different parts, and they'll say that they have to travel maybe 2 hours for work. But like a 2 hour drive here, you would be nearly at the top of Scotland. The drive from the border of Scotland to the top is only about 4 or 5 hours. So I think it's fun that a lot of people in America will take that drive and that's just okay. But for us, even a half an hour out the way, it's like it's too far to go.
And that changes drastically across the United States too. I mean, as you know, obviously, an hour and a half, 2 hours is nothing in some of the Midwestern states, and then when you get into California and some of the higher density areas, it's very similar. Like a half an hour, that's a long ways. When it really not that far when in the grand scheme of things is like a crow flies.
Yeah, because we are a small country and obviously our population's like 5 million to America's insanely large population, so it's two different kind of cultures to travel in. Plus, you can walk nearly anywhere in Scotland or get a train anywhere, which is a good thing, I suppose, as well. The public transport's easier to access.
Oh yeah, I mean, I would say that the public transportation in the United States could probably use some improving, but it's probably geared towards uh, the actual area of what it's servicing. Um, but
And
you know, it's all interesting comparisons.
how is the dealing with the coronavirus just now where you are? Is everything shut down, or are you still able to go into shops and things like that?
Oregon and California are both under restricted movement, in essence, shelter in place type orders, unless you're considered essential, from what I understand. Um, but you know, again, we're fortunate enough that we're considered essential, and that we can keep our distance from each other as we work here. But it is the traffic is definitely a lot less.
Yes, well, obviously we don't have as much traffic as what you guys have, but there's nobody out here. All we can really do is go to supermarket and come home, and we're allowed to. There's a grey area of you can go for exercise, but it's weird. So what I'm going to do is we're going to kind of round up where the podcast is just now. Is there any kind of final kind of words you want to say before we finish it up?
No, I appreciate it. It's been my very first podcast, so I thank you for being gentle on me, and hopefully I contributed to your audience and kind of gave some insight to what we're doing and what the hemp industry looks like.
Yeah, it's been great having you. I know you're really busy and taking this kind of hour out of your time. And to be on the podcast has been really great. What I'm going to do is I'm going to end the recording, but if you hang on for 5 minutes, I'll just go over a few things of the kind of next steps and stuff like that.
Okay.